system.
How's it going, guys? It's the Greaser, and welcome back to the Undisputed podcast with Connor, as always, and this time with Kacper.
Hey, what's up, motherfuckers? How you doing?
Right, so who's going first?
Alright, so we just explain what we're doing quick.
Yes.
So, all three of us have brought our own conspiracy theory, and then we're going to see whose is the most believable. I don't mind going first.
Yeah, alright, go on then.
Can I pull my notes up, because I came prepared today.
Whee!
My conspiracy theory is Tupac secure. You'll like this. So, obviously, my theory is that Tupac is still alive, and he faked his death and ran off to Cuba or Mexico. So I just read my notes down. I kind of wrote an essay. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tupac, arguably one of the biggest social figures in history. The guy received enormous amounts of attention. Something Tupac did, which will become relevant later on in the story, was pre-record a lot of his work. Alright? So his last album was called Machiavelli, the name of a guy who did stage his own death, and there's a book written about him which Tupac read while he was in jail, which is quite interesting. So does that raise the question that this book influenced Tupac into deciding to fake his own death? Tupac didn't have a funeral, and he was cremated the day after his death, even though he often rapped about being buried. And this shocked me because you think someone with Tupac's presence, if you will, you'd think he'd have everything, like a massive, big funeral. You know, like the it's hard to compare, but the George Floyd funeral.
Yeah.
I felt Tupac probably should have had something like that. I know he had a lot of enemies, but he was so popular, arguably the best rapper ever. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised that happened, really. So on the night of his death,
I swear when he died was a whole thing, paraded and memorials for him.
there was a bit, yeah. Because obviously he did have a lot of fans, so his fans wanted to remember him, but he didn't really have anything proper, if that makes sense. He didn't really have the proper funeral that you expect he would have had.
I don't know, with him running away to Cuba, right now, I guess he'll be listening to that podcast just laughing his ass off. Be like, shit, they fucking found me.
Yeah, Tupac watches our videos.
Yeah, watch it. Imagine that.
I'm just going to go on to the night of his death. So on the night of his death, he was supposedly sat next to Suge Knight in the car. They were close friends, him and Suge.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Suge was driving the car, and Tupac was in the passenger seat. And obviously in the USA, the driving seat's on the left. Tupac was sitting on the right. They drive on the right side of the road, so Tupac is closest to the path, but where the road is crossing. Suge and Tupac were very close. However, Suge Knight has a reputation, and that reputation is he's known for killing people, basically. He's in prison at the moment for running someone over in his car.
Yeah, wait, so let me bump into that. Do you know what he said on I think it was in Jim Fallon or something like that, a show about Eazy-E? Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, and because Eazy-E, he died on due to HIV. I think he went into AIDS and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's just like he pretty much admitted, he was like, just like the arrow we shot with HIV at Eazy-E, and like he just basically just owned up to it. Have they done something like that?"
Yeah, and you guess people in the gang world, not being disrespectful to Tupac, but people in gangs, you often actually would people do try to take the credit for bad things that happen because it makes them look cool, it enhances their reputation. Like sometimes when it sounds horrible, but if there's a stabbing or something in a place like London, then you get a terrorist group come out saying that was us, but it wasn't. It's just it's sad, but people like take the credit for things like that. So Suge Knight is known for killing people. He's driving the car. That people say that they were too close for Suge to have any involvement, but people discussed that possibility. But anyway, on the night of his death, well, his shooting, it was the night of a massive boxing fight, Mike Tyson, in Vegas. It's a busy night in the city. It's a highly emotional night. And a guy from another gang got into some sort of altercation with Tupac. And Tupac ended up kicking the shit out of him, basically.
I think I saw some CCTV footage on like YouTube, like moments before Tupac's, death, if you want to say like that.
Yeah.
I saw like that he had like a fight or something.
And that's the reason that's relevant is because some people suggest that a guy was instructed to get into some sort of altercation with Tupac to get him emotional, to get him aggressive.
No, I swear the assassination was supposed to be on Suge. Because Suge, he fucked someone over, one of like producers or something. Because Suge Knight, he was one of like producers, or he would give invest in like music videos or music productions and stuff like that. And apparently he fucked one guy over, and he was like, alright, let's go fucking kill him.
Yeah, Suge.
Yeah, but like the guy knew that Suge would be on the left side, because that's how, when you like the steering wheels in America. Yeah. So why did he drive up to the right side to shoot him? If it would be easy to shoot from the left side.
Yeah, it's interesting with Suge because he's allegedly killed a lot of people, and also around this time apparently it was proven later on that he was paying off death row police officers, FBI agents, to basically kind of look out for him. So Suge's a scary guy, right? That's the problem. Yeah. And it's actually, some people say that Suge basically drives up to the traffic light, ditches the car, ditches his seatbelt, and Tupac gets shot, so Suge set him up. Or there's two conspiracy theories. I'll go into that a bit later on. We'll just go back to the night itself. So Tupac goes off chasing the guy, and later on they get in the car, they're driving off, and this is where it gets interesting. So they've pulled up at a traffic light, Tupac's shot, and what I was saying with Suge is there's two conspiracies in this Tupac case involving Suge. One's that Suge helped him fake his death, and the second is if Tupac is dead, Suge set him up. So Suge drives up, he ditches the car, and Tupac gets shot because, like you were saying, Suge apparently feels like he got fucked over by some guys, however other guys feel like Suge fucked him up. There was a lot going on with Suge at the time.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is there's footage, I'll try to find it and send it to Nathan. There's footage of Suge and Tupac, which is allegedly taken after the shooting, and apparently they were Bill friendly.
I think I'm looking at it now with a picture of it. So Suge's on the left and Tupac's on the right, and in a bottom right corner it says 9th, 9/8, 96. Well, apparently he got shot and died on the 9th, 7th, 96, so the day after. Yeah,
so either way, Suge's involved in this. If Tupac's still alive or not, Suge is involved, it's believed. And so there's been many reported sightings of Tupac, especially in Cuba and New Mexico, but we just talked about the footage with Tupac and Suge. So there's actually many theories around the Tupac incident. I personally believe Tupac is still alive, but there's a few things that makes that difficult, and I think that's only fair because I believe it. I've given the facts, well, not really facts, but what I believe makes it seem like he's still alive. So I think it's only fair if I say what opposes that. And we already mentioned the star power that Tupac had, and I think that power would make it extremely hard for him to hide in the manner he has, because not only could he be recognised, but it's a challenge for him to stay away. You could, if it's hard for us to imagine. We're just three boys sitting in the bedroom right now doing a podcast, but Tupac had eyes on him all the time, and some people don't like that. We're going to get onto actually Nathan's conspiracy, which is similar in that sense. Some people like the eyes on them. Either way, you get used to it. And I think for Tupac, it'd be hard for him to continue living his life without that attention. And you could also imagine him wanting that feeling of coming back, maybe, and just shocking the world. But also, like, imagine if he just walked out at WrestleMania. But with Tupac as well, he loved his music. So people would say, well, if he faked his death, he can't release his music, so surely that'd be the hardest thing for him to do. However, what I was saying right at the beginning, Tupac pre-recorded a lot of his material, so he had loads of songs released after his death, and that makes it interesting with him pre-recording his material, because he'd predict things in his songs. And like when Biggie Smalls died, the notorious B.I.G., people suggest that their murders were linked together, and he spoke about Big in a nice way. How did he know that he was going to die? But it's because he pre-recorded. And it's what we were saying with The Simpsons actually on the last podcast. It's that kind of thing where if you say enough things and something happens, people's going to say, oh my god, look at that, look what he's predicted. So it's that factor that comes into it. That's basically what I've got. I'm just going to ask you individually, or we can come back to the end, but I'm going to ask Nathan first. Do you think it's possible for Tupac to still be alive?
Two elements, yeah. As you said, like, he never had like a funeral and all that, but then again, I agree, like, he was like really, really popular. He's known as the best rapper ever. I don't see him like going hiding for like 20 years or however long he's been dead. Someone would have spotted him by now. I know there's a lot of sightings, but are they real? Some of them are photoshopped, so, you know, I'm kind of in the middle with it.
It's also...
Listen, Nathan, I'm going to add this to something, yeah. At that time, when did he die? In 1996, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, if you had a lot of money and you went to Cuba, no one would find you. The FBI did not know where the fuck you were. You were just gone. Like, one day you were there, the second day you're not. You're just gone.
Well, that's because of the political relationship between Cuba and America, which is why it'd be, if you were Tupac, it is a good place to hide. However, the last thing I'm going to say on this, and then we can move on to another theory. I think that a lot of people don't want Tupac to be dead. I think that's why this conspiracy keeps going on, because he was loved. He was an interesting character. I think that's what it is. People don't want him to be dead. It's like with The Simpsons. People want The Simpsons to predict things, and I think that's really is how it is. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. I've got something interesting to say as well.
Right, go on.
It's not much of a conspiracy. Like, it kind of is. Well, so in about, I think it was 1970s or something, or 1950s. At the time, people knew about it in America. They were like, "Oh yeah, I heard of this guy." But now there's a lot of footage and stuff like that talking about, like, not a lot of people recorded it, except for apparently there's one millionaire, someone in Cuba, who's got the actual footage of this guy, but he just won't show it. But you got to pay him to come to his house. So he flies you to Cuba, you come to his house and you watch a video.
Right.
But apparently there was in Cuba there was someone called the Superman of Havana. And basically in Cuba what they used to do is a lot of these rich people from America and even politicians, apparently John F. Kennedy also went to one of these shows. You know, he used to be a sex addict and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And John F. Kennedy, JFK, he was actually like, he used to go to Cuba to like fucking whorehouses, strip clubs and that, and just have sex. Pretty much.
I'm kind of interested to see where you're going with this.
In Havana, basically, they used to have these like sex shows, sex theatres.
Yeah.
So you literally pay a few cents at the time, or dollars, and then you sit down in a crowded room, about 50 people plus, yeah. And this guy called the Superman of Havana, and it was apparently like a family business. It was run down, so you already know what's going to happen, yeah. And this black, massive, muscular guy comes out in a robe. There's a white girl chained up to like, you know, one of those like fucking torture devices, so where you put your hand through and
yeah, we have seen
your head through, and you can't fucking move. So the guy's completely naked, yeah. And this guy just comes out with a big old fucking schlong. One woman said that there's one quote from a woman that watched it. She said if it was a fucking 15-inch battle, that's what she called it. And someone even called it a fucking machete.
Wait, can I just ask?
Yeah.
What's the conspiracy? Because
About a guy, because people don't like. It's so fucked up. Yeah. People don't actually believe that a guy like that existed.
so people don't think he existed because of how big his cock was.
Because of how fucked up the stories are. People are like, nah, that ain't true. And there's not a lot of evidence about him, except for like people talking about it and people that lived in the 1950s and they knew about it. They used to go to sex shows like that.
Wait, can I just butt in quickly?
Yeah.
I just want to go to Nathan quick.
Nathan, you alright?
So Nathan, we actually, when Kacper mentioned this to us the other day, in the little pre-podcast briefing we had,
Yeah.
Nathan, you found some footage, I believe.
Yeah, it's like a clip of it in Godfather 2.
Yeah.
I saw it. What the hell's going on there?
Yeah, and they literally, like, it would be this tiny woman, yeah, rarely it would be an Asian chick, but this tiny woman, not taller than 5'8", yeah?
Yeah.
And this, like, 6'4", 6'7" guy would come out, this big old fucking dick, and ram it into her like a fucking go. And it would tear her apart. People were fucking whistling, cheering on, and everything. Some people were fucking mortified, had to go to the psychic hospital.
Getting demonetised.
Act like fucking monkeys for the rest of their lives because they couldn't believe what just happened.
Wait, Kacper, calm down, mate. You sound like you're getting a bit too excited.
This is true.
Imagine when this goes out.
They used to do stuff like that. And the fucking president of America, that little kinky fuck, used to go to shows like that.
Okay. Yeah. So if your conspiracy is, let me just break this down. Give me a minute. So fucking hell. So the conspiracy is there are these Superman sex shows that JF Kennedy went and watched.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, poor
The
JFK.
fucking Italian mafia used to let them go to Cuba and watch it.
Oh, fucking hell.
Listen, that used to be like a fucking, I don't know, what is it? A fucking, that used to be so popular in like Cuba and America that it used to be like a fucking festival, pretty much.
A machete cock festival.
It wasn't like a cheap festival. It was a proper high end, yeah. Like a lot of rich people would go to it. It was a proper like high end stuff. Like people would serve champagne, fucking stuff like that. And after it, people would go to restaurants and talk about it. And most of them would fuck off and start fucking each other because some people are like perverted, yeah. But just imagine what people can do, like just how intriguing it was for them to watch a woman get fucked by a big dick.
Okay, thank you, Kacper. So I don't have as much knowledge as Kacper on this. In
I'm fucking amazed by it. That's all I know about it. I'm not kinky or anything. I'm just fucking amazed by it.
You know what, we won't conclude this one. I think.
No. First thing, if you want to literally know about this more, yeah.
Oh, do I want to?
For whoever is going to be listening into this video, go to Rose Kingdom and say there's an article and type in Superman of Havana. You'll fucking listen to this and your jaw will fucking drop to your knees.
Yeah, that's what we want. In the comments, everyone in the comments, have a discussion about this machete cock, which is one of the best things I've ever heard.
Your fucking chin will drop to your knees just like that fucking woman's neck just fucking broken and sucking on that little thing. Not a little thing, big old fucking thing.
Alright. I think it's I think that Kacper, that was great. It was different. I don't think many people would be expecting that when they click to watch this video. And if anyone's actually still here watching the rest of the video, then fair play to you. I think.
Listen, Clark, before you, I'm just gonna add two last things. Yeah, if you want to literally laugh your head off, go into Joe Diaz. He's got a little bit of information on that. Yeah, he's a comedian. You'll fucking laugh your head off. That's where I first started it from. Second of all, I just read this. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Superman of Havana died somewhere in the 1960s. Yeah.
Yeah.
And guess who he was?
Guess who he
His
was?
profession.
I don't know.
A fucking gardener.
What?
He was a gardener though he used to sling dicks overnight.
Okay.
He used to come out from fucking curtains, so you were like, hello baby, he used to chop that fucking shit up.
I think
fucking gardener. I think he's a fucking cut brush or bushes or something like that.
Okay, thanks Kacper. Thank you Kacper. Oh, he's still going.
There you go, roaches on it.
Can we move on to Nathan's?
Right. So after that, we go into my conspiracy theory of Princess Diana.
Ooh.
The news of it is that she was in a car, it crashed and it killed her. But I don't believe that. What I believe, the conspiracy theory that I believe is that she was pregnant.
Oh.
I believe she was pregnant and that the royal family could not accept that an Egyptian Muslim could eventually be the stepfather of a future king of England. So, because they couldn't accept that, they just plotted to kill her. So it wouldn't happen. Because, you know, she was out of the royal family, so she wanted to do whatever she wanted. That's why she got pregnant with this bloke. So, what I believe is that they just couldn't accept that that man could be like a stepfather of a future king. They just killed her, so there would be no baby, nothing, you know, because, you know, the royal family are a bit racist, you know, they are. So that's what I believe. Even because eventually, like weeks and weeks before she was, you know, killed, or, you know, died, if you want to say, the media and that was saying that she looked pregnant and that. But after her death, that news just died quickly, like quick as anything, and said, no, she wasn't pregnant at all. No, it was just fake news. So that's a bit sketchy. So I believe that they took that news off, like her being pregnant, so there would be no heat on the royal family and that, because she was so loved around England and that.
Yeah.
So,
and she was always loved, but just like you're saying, just approaching the time towards her accident, she started to get a type of attention from the press that maybe she didn't like. She always liked the cameras, but this specific moment in time, she wasn't enjoying it as much. And that's where I actually believe with Nathan to an extent about her being pregnant, because the guy that she was allegedly seeing was actually the owner of Fulham Football Club at the time, and he was, like Nathan said, an Egyptian Muslim. And I don't see that going down well with a very traditional royal family.
Well, also, what I believe is that the paparazzi made the car crash intentionally, because there's news of her being stuck in the car and the paparazzi weren't helping her at all. They were just taking pictures, running around the car, just taking pictures. They weren't helping her at all. But if actual paparazzi, wouldn't you put down the camera, take someone like a person that England really really like? You wouldn't just carry on taking pictures and that. And plus, none of the pictures that was taken was ever released.
This isn't proven, but there's a claim. It's an accusation that as she's being taken into hospital, Princess Diana says something along the lines of the brakes was oiled. So she believes that the car was potentially tampered with, and the royal family has taken a lot of heat for this.
But didn't she I swear she used, because I think the driver said something that when he used the brake, did the driver die as well?
Yeah, I think everyone in the car died, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so on the way to the hospital, I think she just repeated the word to the driver, because it might have been that he said to her, shit, I can't do anything. The brakes were, just not working at all.
We'll never know what was actually in the car in that time. It's everything that happened after the Diana death as well, which is interesting. The build up to her funeral. This was, I think, in the Queen's reign. I'd say, is the worst moment in the Queen's reign, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because she was questioned about over the palace, the British flag being up at half mast or something like that, and she got a lot of flack, and in the end people believe the Queen made the right decision in the end. But then there's a lot of people that think, you know what, in the build up until this death, the Queen was very questionable, and the Queen only changed to fit the public. But
yeah.
But I think what my dad was saying is that if the Queen didn't make a speech about Princess Diana, because the public demanded a speech from the Queen, but if she didn't give it, then he would believe that would have been the end of the royal family. That
it could have been.
Yeah, because nobody would have liked them. Everyone would have turned against them, because their most loved person in the royal family just died.
Yeah, but the thing is, maybe some people were saying, then why would Queen Elizabeth kill Diane if there would be a risk of the royal family just not being as popularised or ending? But in reality, if you think about it, because Princess Diana, when she was married to Prince Charles, they separated in 1992, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was Princess Diana, she kept on saying, she said in one interview, she said, well, there are three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. And apparently, Prince Charles cheated on her and stuff like that. So I think, maybe the royal family knew what was going to happen, that after her death, they're going to have to do all this stuff and that, but they tried to avoid it until they realised, oh shit, we're going to actually make a speech, make a little memorial or something, and actually talk about her death. But they knew that if they let this happen more with Princess Diana she was more influential than the royal family.
Yeah.
In a sense, and when she separated from the royal family, she couldn't have done whatever. She couldn't have said some of the secrets the royal family had, or talk about and just giving Prince Charles a bad name. So if they just let her live, she would have done more damage to the royal family. So maybe they just decided to kill her, even though knowing that there might be a risk that after her death, the royal family will have a bad shade on them.
Yeah, because here's the thing: even when Diana and Charles have separated, it's believed that they were still very close, even once they were separated. But in a rather unusual way, Diana was still princess because of how loved she was. That's why the royal family kept her on despite separating from Charles. And I think moving forward in future generations, I don't think the Queen's gone anywhere yet. She doesn't seem to age, our Queen.
Yeah,
But
I get that. Yeah.
it'd be interesting in future generations how different kings and queens of this country will. I don't even know who's next in line. But it'd be interesting to see.
I think I swear it's
Charles.
Prince. No, it's not Charles. It's George. Is it? The little kid.
Willie.
Prince William. Yeah, I think so. No, wait.
That doesn't matter, but I think it'd be interesting because I think the generation we're moving into, our queen has been through a lot, and the current coronavirus pandemic is actually just the top of the iceberg. You know, she's experienced wars as a young child. She had to go through the same thing everyone else has. So people didn't want to turn on the Queen, but it's because it's tradition, and the Diana situation broke many traditions afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think she has an impact on the country today.
Diane actually showed off before Diane, royal family was seen as something like proper special. It was like, you know what I mean? It was highly respected.
Yeah.
Well, it still is, but not the same way after Diane, because Diane really showed that the royal family is just people.
And I think that's because of how people felt for the children at the time as well.
Yeah.
But religion is always. People like to think religion doesn't change, but I do think religion is adapting and evolving. Like once upon a time, you know, in Christianity, for example, I know in some religions.
Mate.
You know.
I'll add to that later. Just
hang on a sec. How, like, for example, how different religions take to homosexuality. It's not a topic. It doesn't bother me what someone's sexual identity is, but you know, in some religions it is. In Christianity, it's you know, people believe that it's a sin, and I think the way we're moving forward, hopefully that will be eradicated. And I think it is just about breaking traditions, and that's why I think Diana still has a very important role in how not just our country but how the world is moving forward, because people said she was there for the people, not just the royal family. She was there for the people, and that was the difference between her and the Queen, maybe. So just to end on the conspiracy theories before we move on, who do you let's start with Kacper. Who do you think out of all the conspiracy, the two conspiracies and a half we've heard today, what is the most believable? Or what would you say is the most believable?
I really believe in my one, but I wouldn't say like it is the most believable because of the way not a lot of people support it.
Okay, so between mine and Nathan's, which one do you believe is the most likely?
I would say the Diane one.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, like a Tupac, that's more of like media stuff, like, I bet Tupac's in Cuba, like, watching Superman of Havana, and people just like popularise it, like, they use it as part of it, like, they use it as a way to talk about it, like, have a joke and stuff like that, so it's popular about Tupac, faking his death and going to Cuba. Well, Princess like, the topic of Diane, of her dying, is really controversial, and it's really complicated topic to talk about. So not a lot of people talk about it, but I guess I think a lot of people believe in it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And yeah, I actually, even though I actually think that the Diana one can be more believable. However, for me, I just like to think that a part of me just doesn't think the Queen can do that. But I do agree that maybe Nathan.
It's a scary thought, if you know what I mean. Like, you wouldn't think, because you're talking about, let's say, North Korea or like Middle Eastern countries or dictators from Libya and stuff.
What's going on with China and Hong Kong at the moment?
You could see where there was a lot of like government control and stuff like that, and people, the government used to go against people and stuff like that. You wouldn't think living in a modern like country like UK, you wouldn't think something like that would be happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Nathan's actually done very well with how he explained that as well.
Hold on, I'm just going to add one thing. You remember, Connor, you said about religion, how it changes in that?
Yeah, please be careful.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I remember, I think 3 years, you know, it's like simple, like 10 amendments and like Christianity and stuff like that. So like, don't kill people, don't cheat on people, stuff, don't steal, stuff like that.
Yeah.
In my country, Poland, I was like 3 years ago. I was riding in the car with my grandfather, and I listened through the radio, and a statement from the like Catholic Church came in, and they were like, "We added new 5 amendments to the original 10 ones due to the modernisation of the world, and these are not using your phone 2 hours more than 2 hours daily, not literally not doing that, not saying anything bad against the government." I was like, what? That is some bullshit right there.
But it is a symbol of how we are moving forward, because I don't think, what you just mentioned about phones and not being on your phone more than 2 hours a day, I don't really know, I need to word this carefully. I don't know where religion really came from, but I know that way back when, they wouldn't have thought about phones. So that's the phone is an example of like modernisation and technology.
Okay, so now it's time for the Hall of Fame with a twist, because this week it's a celebrity version. Alright, so I'm going to go first this week, and my Hall of Fame inductee is none other, Kacper, you'll like this, Freddie Mercury.
I knew it.
Oh, Freddie. Why have I put him in? Because he's great.
I was about to say something, but I'm not going to say it.
No, don't say that. He's on my wall, so be careful. Right, Connor.
Okay.
I've struggled this all week. I wrote down a list, and I've had to knock people off. It's actually it's been very tough for me. This obviously our Hall of Fame is quite prestigious. I'm going to induct the original Paul McCartney, and what I mean by the original Paul McCartney is I'm inducting the Paul McCartney that died in 1966 and was replaced by a fake and had his legacy ruined by an imposter. So because of that, I'm inducting Paul McCartney 1966 and before.
So now it's the moment I have been waiting for.
I'll clap this in.
The question.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Kacper, can we just ask that you keep your cool? We just need you to stay calm here. We don't want you going off and because we don't want you to get annoyed. So, Harrison was a good example of how to deal with these questions. So.
No, I'm fine. I'm cool. Yeah.
Right, I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay. So question number 1 for Kacper. It says, will you make your own channel, maybe cooking?
Oh, Jesus Christ. If I was making a channel, I'll start off with I'll probably do something live. Maybe live cooking stuff making recipes, stuff like that.
Oh.
Later on, maybe I would move on to because I'm not really good at editing. I don't really have practice, but I want to get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
So once I do get into editing and stuff like that, I will maybe start a YouTube channel.
You heard it here first. An Undisputed podcast exclusive. Have that, The Sun, Daily Mirror, and all other newspaper outlets.
Don't be like, oh yeah, he's going to do that, he's going to do it.
It's a big possibility. It's possible.
It's on the table. It's conclusive.
Okay.
Right, how about I start with like food photography, because I'm good at that. See how it goes, yeah?
Yeah.
We can see.
Alright. So question number 2. Kacper, why did you break the shower head on the Italy trip?
Oh, I'm going to add into that a little bit after, because I've got a story for you. Would I break it? Because I thought it was one of those... because like the shower... Because in Italy, when you go in the hotel rooms, they're like proper stationary, like they're plugged into the wall. You can't like take them out, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta do something while I was in the shower. So I was like, I thought I could lift it up, if you know what I mean, off the wall. The spray head, the head of it, and it just popped off completely. I started doing weightlifting, so I didn't even realise how much strength I had. Like, it just went, and water started spewing everywhere. And I was like, shit, what do I do? So just put it back, turn off your shower, put it back, and then every time you try to use the shower, it would just go, I got it. And then I wondered why I didn't get my €15 deposit back.
Alright. So question number 3 for all of us.
Oh, yay.
Do you hate Driscoll?
No.
No, I fucking love him. He's coolest. If you ever get to know Driscoll, you'll realise that he's a really cool guy. Yeah. He can get a little bit fucking angry, but past that, he's sick. He's awesome.
Yeah, and Driscoll's a part of the Undisputed club. He's a part of a very special club.
You just can't hate Driscoll.
Yeah, you can't.
Right. Next question is, do you like Tim Bob?
Who's that?
And we've just let you on our podcast.
Oh my god.
Who's Tim Bob?
You are the mayor.
I'm so offended.
Who's Tim Bob?
Do you not watch his other videos?
No, I
Oh
don't
my
have
god.
time to do that.
Nathan.
I'm sorry, Nathan, I don't have time.
Oh, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Oh, we was here for the self-promotion and Kacper's ruined it. Oh.
Alright, so explain who Tim Bob is.
No, we're not explaining. You have to go and watch the videos. No.
We don't have time.
Yeah, we don't have time.
Just in 10 words, literally 10 words.
No, we don't have 10 words. Next question.
He's a guy that wears weird glasses and he wants to murder me.
Okay.
Why does he want to kill you? Huh?
Because he hates me.
Because there's beef, alright?
There's beef.
Next question, if there is another question.
Yes, I hate Tim Bob. Right, next question. There we go. Favourite film?
Oh, I've got a favourite film. I don't care what you say about me, but I love a good Disney movie or a Paramount stuff like that. And one movie really touches my heart and my soul, and I watch it every time I watch it, I never get enough of it. I've watched it 16th time, I never get enough of it. The Stallion of Cimarron or something like that. And it's basically about a stallion kind of it's just fucking amazing. I just love to watch it. So what they do is basically they mimic they were able to mimic a lot of horse kind of movements and behaviours into a character. So although it's an animal, you it's like Bambi in the sense Bambi's a fucking deer, but you understand what he's doing through the cartoon and drawing stuff. You know what his facial expressions are and that's they've basically done that same thing with a stallion, and his name is Spirit, and he goes on a whole journey, and it's just fucking great. And the music's fucking amazing. Top of notch to it. Brian Adams, I love you if you're still alive.
Okay. Yeah, Kacper, we didn't need the whole story. Thank you.
Mate, you understand, like, if I go full on, I go full on, yeah?
Yeah, this is
So,
my
don't
podcast,
get
so don't
surprised.
ever touch my mic again. Right.
Right. My favourite film is Jaws.
Ugh.
Because it's a classic, right? Right, Connor, what's yours?
I'm going to say Green Street. It's a football hooligan movie. However, I may just add quickly that my new favourite movie isn't even out yet, and it's a movie featuring me and Nathan, which is coming out in about 5 to 10. It's coming out in about 5 to 10 years, but I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. So next question is for you, Kacper. It says, what about the heli in Fortnite?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Get in the fucking heli.
He doesn't know. Right. Next question.
I do know, I just don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Get in the fucking heli.
Next question. Favourite podcast moments so far?
And what are your podcast? What now?
On all of them. On all of them.
Oh, that's so hard.
I know mine. It's Kacpers Conspiracy Theory.
And I bet it's going to be your favourite of a lot of people. And like, wait, if you get any money on this, I'm getting a 10% pay cut for this.
Yeah, you know what, Kacper? Having you on today has just moved us from YouTube to Spotify, mate. So, my favourite moment is but the best moment is at the start of every podcast when Nathan messages me and tells me, "Are you ready?" Because you know what, I love the feeling of being a part of this amazing club. And you know, it's just such a great podcast. So every time I do this, it makes me really happy. I enjoy it.
You know my least fucking favourite moment about this podcast is before the podcast. Yeah, I text Nathan. I'm like, "Are you sure? Like, do you want to talk about this before like doing a podcast?" So, like, we only texted like 5 messages, and we were like, "All right, let's do this." And then he goes, "Yeah, let's go." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't I haven't even really like talked to you much," and you just go, "All right, let's go."
Yeah, that's what we do on our podcast. So anyone that's on a future podcast that's watching that wants to be involved, we don't like to discuss beforehand. We go straight in. We waffle on the spot, and that's also that's what adds to make it such a great podcast.
Yeah, it's real. Right. Next question. If you could be one animal, what would you be?
Oh shit.
Was that?
Bear. A bear is my fucking spirit animal. I'm telling you now. Seeing around. No, actually not a bear. I would either be I think bears are fucking cool. You can climb like trees and that. Eat honey all day and just look at the fucking mountains, and then like when something happens, you just go and you eat an animal or something. They give you fucking meals. But I mean, like, really, I would be something fast, like, so like I can feel the breeze when I'm running, or be an eagle or something, just fly up in the sky, look around, stuff like that.
Right, Connor, what would you be?
Football player.
The question was an animal, mate. I'd be a chicken, just because I like to eat chicken.
And I would be a snake.
We know a few of them, don't we, Nathan? I'm not starting to cause beef on the podcast,
A
but
snake is fucking worse than a fucking chicken, mate. What are you talking about? Snake, they can't hardly see. Just slither around like... Just fucking slithering around. Why you want to be a snake for? What are you going to do?
Just slither.
Fucking run? No, bitch, you can't do that. You got to fucking slither. Mate, snakes can't even hit each other up. Like, they don't have fucking body heat.
Down. Right, come on, let's do this. Last question. Right, the last question. If you could bring one dead person back to life, who would it be?
I know what Nathan's going to say.
Freddie Mercury!
I'll do me. I'd bring back Paul McCartney. And before you say Paul McCartney's still alive, I'm going to bring back the real Paul McCartney so they can do an identity versus identity ladder match at WrestleMania. Over to you, Kacper.
Welcome to WrestleMania!
One person I'll bring back is Robin Williams.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Robbie Williams?
Like, imagine,
that's a good one.
Isn't
like, imagine what he could do with movies now. Like, with, like... Because there's so many, like, more actors going on. So if he wasn't, like, in a role working with someone, I guess he would make some cool movies. Because, like, the world really needs him now, I would say.
Yeah.
I would bring back Robbie Williams.
Yeah. Alright. So that's the end of the podcast.
Wow, what a great podcast.
Thank you for listening very much, and thank you, Kacper, for taking the time out of your day to be on it. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Alright, bye-bye.